Good morning, ladies. I'm speaking to you on video this morning because I am in a teaching with this amazing devotee of the Sri Vidya lineage, the divine feminine lineage in the tantric tradition from Devipuram, the ashram in India that I visited in January. And she is teaching, this devotee is teaching a class this morning that I very much wanted to attend. And so I'm recording for you. So this morning, I want to speak on a teaching that is actually from the Ananda community. As you all know, because I've said it so many times, but I'll say it again. Siddhi and I will be leading a workshop or a retreat at the Ananda Village in Nevada City in August, the 15th to the 17th. I hope you will be with us. It is such a special location, and the ambiance is so conducive for really deepening into your practice and into the individual inquiry that we have about our own spiritual path, what that looks like, and what are the nuances of that. For each of us, it's something different. So I think it will be very illustrative and deepening and revealing in August. And as one of our participants asked, is there air conditioning? Because it's very hot in Nevada City. It can be very hot in August in Nevada City. And yes, there is air conditioning. So today I want to talk about divine truth, a little bit about divine truth. So divine truth is not mystical. Often we think of the material world as the reality, and the inner realm is sort of vague and indistinct. And the mystical world is not maybe having as much truth assigned to it, or it's just being vague, where it's difficult to assign what the belief system is or what the thoughts are around this whole mystical divine truth thing. The divine truth doesn't come in concrete ways unless you read something concrete like the Bible or the Quran or the Buddhist teachings, the sutras. And this is not my experience, and nor is it the experience that I read about with other spiritual aspirants. Paramahansa Yogananda, the author of Autobiography of a Yogi, wrote, "The real mystery is why so many people remain content with this illusory world and devote so little energy to seeking the truth behind it." I love that he was looking at that as why are we so content to be simply held in the concrete and not allow that these systems of ours have so much more breadth and depth than the physicality. He reminds us that the soul is the true self and the pure manifestation of spirit within us. So how do we understand and track the soul's movement when it's in this more ephemeral manner? It's not in the concrete. The ego, according to Yogananda's teachings, is the pseudo-self. And the soul responds to the world of duality through the ego. So if the world's in duality, then the soul's only way to communicate through that tends to be stepping into duality unless we find a different portal. And he was talking about this different portal to the divine being this more vague, mystical expression and experience and cauldron that we can live in. We've talked a lot about mystics, and for me, the tap roots of all the traditions that most resonate for me come through the lens of mysticism. So we need to learn how to not identify with the limited instruments of the physical body and mind. Again, Sadhguru's teachings, all of these wonderful teachers, I am not the body, I am not the mind. That the more I continue to only want to see myself and life through the limitations of the physical body and the mind, the less likely I am to encounter this deeper mystical experience. The rationalizing mind allows the senses, and therefore, the rational mind follows the senses and therefore cannot give us truth because our senses are limited. They only tell us what they can register through the tools that the senses have given us. So if I can't taste it, doesn't mean that there isn't a taste to it. If I can't see it, doesn't mean it can't be seen. It only means that the tools of my tongue or the tools of my eyes or the tools of my ear have a limited capacity. And intuition is not related to that capacity. Intuition goes beyond the veil of the senses. So the senses hold a beautiful possibility for us, but it's limited. And we need to be able to step into that understanding so we can step beyond it. If we rely on the senses and their tools to register experience, we've limited our experience. So intuition is a direct perception of truth, direct. So they talk about, where do you get the divine inspiration? It comes directly through the divine. It doesn't come necessarily or solely through one of our senses. It comes through another portal. It comes through this mysticism of experiencing something beyond that which is limited. That's what mystics are. That's what mysticism means, experiencing that which is beyond the limited. And it's this all-knowing power that we already have. It's not something new, but it is something we have to cultivate. So daily practice of meditation helps us to develop this power and practice of intuition. This is why we chant mantras, and this is why we do meditations, and why we work on breath, on pranayama, because these are all ways that we connect more fully and deeply with the senses and take them to their expanded state. In meditation, we find our own center, and we gain the wisdom by touching the universal center of objective reality. In meditation, we find our own center by gaining wisdom, by touching the universal center of objective reality. So reality and truth, as it stands in the bigger picture of reality and truth, not our subjective, what we see through our limited senses, what we see through our limited experiences, what we've been taught, that there's a truth beyond that experience, those experiences. And when we tap into that truth, which comes through our intuition and through other divine revelation, then we have an access to a deeper understanding of all cosmic law. There is a law that exists of how things work together. And as long as we refuse to tap into that by not taking advantage of the practices that allow us to, then we're just shortchanging the boundaries of this truth that we can know. So I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in knowing a partial truth. I'm interested in knowing the whole truth. So Swami Kriyananda, who was Yogananda's direct disciple and who started this Ananda village in Nevada City, where we will be, he actually purchased the land there and cultivated the beginning of the community and developed that Ananda community in Nevada City. And it is actually where his samadhi, where his resting place of his body is in Nevada City at this ashram. Amazing space, the samadhi. I'm hopeful that we will be able to spend some time in the space because it's supercharged. It's supercharged. So he says that we are accustomed to doing, that we have to he encouraged us to learn, see, feel, and think differently from what we're accustomed to think in a new paradigm. This was his teaching, is that we have to go outside of the norm of what we're used to. We get into patterns and habits, even your sadhana, even the practices that you do, which are beautiful, and the discipline that you bring, which is extraordinary. But it can, and I know Siddhi can speak to this so beautifully, perhaps she will when this recording's over, that there are times when we feel we have to shift it up, drop something out of our sadhana and add something different in, because the shifting gives us a different perspective, that we can get into a habit of doing the same exact thing over and over and over. It becomes rote. And when it becomes rote, the deepening into it, the experience of the deepening is lost. And we want to keep it fresh and alive and more vital. So trying to arise above that which we are, the way we are thinking and the way we are seeing and the way we are experiencing, is a way to keep us expanding. So we have to constantly try to rise above seeing everything in reference through our egos, which is, the senses give us an ego calibration. The senses tell us this is more than I normally experience, so I have to look at it more carefully, and I judge it against what else is in the picture. So I'm starting to use reference points that are set. And that keeps me contracted rather than reference points that are constantly moving and having some sort of a connection to an eternal, expanded experience. So we have to stop thinking of ourselves or the things around us in reference to my home, my wife, my husband, my children, my clothes, my job, my friends, my position in the world, my reputation, my talents, anything that's mine. Once I label it mine, now I have created a relationship that is in contraction rather than expansion, because anything that's mine, I'm going to see through the lens of caretaking, controlling, worry. There's all sorts of expectations that are built into my things, how my things should behave, how my things should look, how my things should be protected. And now I'm in the world of duality again. And I'm in a world of control, which is limiting my expansion because it's contracting me. Control is about contraction. It's not about expansion. We see that all around us right now. So we have to really limit our internal labeling that happens. We talk about this again and again, that labeling even of how I expect something to turn out, what I see as an evolution of a situation, a relationship, or a situation, as soon as I label it and give it a standardized expectation, I've stepped outside of possibility. There's no more possibility. Now it's limited. So you can see that the list could be indefinite. Everything is, once we start labeling mine, everything around us that we see that comes and goes into our life experience, we start to see as mine and my experience, not the whole of the experience, but my experience. And this becomes a trap for us. So stepping outside of this labeling, and we've talked about labeling expectations, but really labeling mine, anything that's mine. So today, take the time to, as you go through your day, see how many times you use mine and you identify with something as mine, and see how that changes if you can see that as existing in reality, but not belonging to me. I'm a custodian. This isn't mine. I'm the custodian for this. I'm custodian for relationships. I'm a custodian for physical objects. I'm simply here to be in service of, not in control of. So by connecting with our soul's wisdom, the veils of Maya, or illusion as we know it, begin to drop away, because this wisdom takes us out of this contraction of control and allows us to see reality as it truly is. You know, and I know that many and most and all of the things that we think we can control, we have very little control over, if any. So we set up all of these systems around the situations to see how much control we can, excuse me, exert. But it's limited. Always it's limited. We have really very little control other than how we respond to the situations around us. So as we no longer refer to things as mine, we drop back from the need to control, and we start to drop back into ourselves, into the center of ourselves, which doesn't want to own or need to control. This is the place where the intuition and the revelation and divine message comes in. As soon as we stop having those constraints, then other floods in. And we stop living at the periphery of our experience, and we live more in the center. We connect to our soul's wisdom, and we begin to understand truth with a capital T. And then the journey of our life completely changes, because our experience of everything has a different slant on it. We're seeing things through totally different eyes. We can work at achieving wisdom by interiorizing our consciousness and directing all of our energy towards our spiritual eye. So, how many times do we meditate and talk about the third eye, the point between the eyebrows? There's a whole scientific reason for this, which I'm not going to go into right now, but the anatomy of what's happening in our body in this space, what's happening behind the eyes in this space that is connected to divine wisdom. Maybe that's actually an interesting talk I'll do, maybe next week. But this is an attitude that we need to cultivate consciously as we're going into this journey more deeply and more fully, is that I'm accessing everything through this lens that is not the physical tool of sight. It's an internal tool of sight. So one of the ways that we can do this is to uh, relate to what we see and what we do through the inner self. So imagine these scenarios. When you see a flower, try to sense the essence of its beauty in the self, not just what we see as the sight or what we smell as a scent if it has a fragrance, but the essence of the flower, the beauty of its unfolding as it relates to the unfolding of our soul and our own spirit journey. When we hear some beautiful music, to try and hear the source of the music within the soul, to calibrate that music to a rhythm within us. So listen more deeply, so we take ourselves out of the one dimensional experience of what our ear hears to a deeper, more multidimensional experience of the music, feeling it as the vibration in our body. Draw every sense of enjoyment inward, bringing it into our center. So stopping, slowing down what it is that the senses are bringing in, whether it's our sight or our sound or our smell or our touch, and taking the time as that information is relayed from our senses to allow it to sink down to another level, deepen. Let it deepen into this deeper part of our experience of what we are smelling, touching, hearing, seeing. What is happening on a superficial level and a deep level. Allow yourself to sink into it. This requires absolute attention to the passage of time, slowing down. We cannot experience it when we rush past it. We can make a mindset of, oh, what a beautiful flower. And then I'm on to the next thing. I'm walking past it. I didn't stop, acknowledge the color and the fragrance or the thorn or whatever that plant, that flower has to offer, that I didn't take it in. Stop and take it in to a deeper level. Start training ourselves to deepen the surface sensory expressions and experiences into a deeper soul level. Draw every sense of enjoyment inward. And this attitude becomes an attitude of how we see the world. So now we're starting to tap into this deeper place that I'm speaking to of the divine revelation and intuition. It's happening underneath of the surface experience of our senses. That's why when we talk about the third eye, it's not something that's superficial on the outside of our body. It's happening internally. It's an internal understanding and experience and expression of a truth or of a reality. And if we can start experiencing everything that our senses bring to us through this expanded possibility, now we've moved into another realm. And that's the realm we're going to touch into when we're trying to touch into this wisdom that I'm speaking of and this intuition. Wisdom descends from our super consciousness. It's in this form that our personalities truly become transformed. This is where all of the essence that we talk about, the beauty, the essence of beauty, when we see someone who we know is deepening in this way, we see a different patina on them. We see them, even our surface eyes and our surface sensory experiences experience something different. When you experience a space that has a divinity that's been invited in, whether it's a church or a temple or a sacred place out in nature, there's a depth that happens in you that you feel that isn't specifically of one of the senses. This is the place I'm speaking to. This is where we transform our own personalities because we start to experience them as an expanded nature, which I want to do. So I'm going to guide you through a very short, but just an expression of a meditation practice aimed at this inner awareness that's adapted from a meditation by Swami Kriyananda. So let yourself settle into your seat and close your eyes and take one really deep breath, allowing yourself to just fill up like a balloon with the oxygen that you've taken in, and let yourself exhale the carbon dioxide, cleansing and purifying as you let go of that which is not serving you. And another breath. Exhaling through your nostril, breathing in through your mouth and exhaling through your nostrils. And now center your gaze and your attention in this third eye spot inside of your body. even imagining an eye turned inward, a physical eye turned inward to the inner space of your body, of your knowingness, of your center of experience as an inside job, not an outside job. And feel that gaze upon your inner landscape. And from this center, keep your mind focused and harnessed on this thought: my willpower is dynamic, free, and forever joyful. My insight is dynamic, free, and forever joyful. My capacity is dynamic, free, and ever joyful. Let these words pull down the truth into this space behind your eyes. Let it sit like on a seat of consciousness. My willpower is dynamic, free, and forever joyful. Feel this space, this seat of your subconscious, this seat of your intuition and your knowing. Maybe you see yourself sitting on a lotus pad. Maybe you see yourself on a cushion, sitting in a beautiful yoga position. Maybe you see just light. Maybe you don't see anything except space, nothingness but space. But feel into this space. Allow whatever your senses have to bring to you to sink into this space, to gather up all of the knowingness and the truth and the revelation that sits in this space behind your eyes. And recognizing that this space, this place of our super subconscious is purification. All knowingness has been purified. All wisdom has been purified. It is our place within our system of purity. And that purity follows from this third eye space into our heart and the purification of our heart. So feel this purity in the spaciousness of it and the importance of it in the way that we see into the world. And reminding ourselves in this space of purity and consciousness that I am joyful, I am free in myself, I am forever free. I am joyful, I am free. In myself, I am forever free. And taking your time, slowly opening your eyes. And this week, take the opportunity as you go through your days to be reminded to see the world through this third eye consciousness, to experience and slow down and deepen into this seat that you have where all truth and all inspiration and all revelation just pours out of you. It comes into your knowingness from what seems like no form into form as a thought. And take advantage of that and allow our senses to be the inspiration deepening us into that portal. So we see something or we hear something or we smell something and allow it to expand us into that space in such a deep and powerful way that we start to see the world through the lens of this third eye. Everything, we see everything that way. Blessings to you for a beautiful week.